Hello students! You have understood the freshwater ecosystem. And the three zones of a freshwater ecosystem. Littoral, limnetic, and profundal zones. I am here today with much more information on the adaptation of plants to temperature. By the end of this video, you will be able to understand the adaptations of various plants to temperature with various examples. Learning objectives. You will be able to understand adaptation of plants to temperature, adaptation to temperature in animals, adaptation as a response to adverse situations. Lichens. Story of Darins Finches. Keywords: terrestrial, animals or plants that live predominantly or entirely on land. Transpiration: it is the loss of water through the aerial parts of the plant. Insulates: protect from heat, cold or noise. Concept map: adaptation to temperature in plants. Based on the effect of temperature on plants, terrestrial ecosystems can be seen in different ways. Do all plants shed their leaves at the same time in a year worldwide? Some plants in temperate regions shed their leaves before the winter starts. This minimizes transpiration loss and reduces photosynthetic and other metabolic activities, as low temperature renders several chemicals inactive for some time. High temperatures also lead to adaptations like reduced leaves. In tropical regions, some plants shed their leaves before the start of summer. Plants growing in hot climates usually keep the stomata closed during the day to reduce transpiration loss. Adaptation to temperature in animals. Heat changes occur due to an increase or decrease in atmospheric temperatures. These changes greatly affect the life of organisms in different ecosystems. In cold regions, the upper layers of the lakes get frozen during winter and the lower layers do not. Hence, organisms migrate to deeper layers of the lake which are warmer and survive. Why do polar bears have thick fur over its body? In what way thick skin helps the seal to protect from cold weather? Animals living in these regions adapt themselves in different ways. They have a thick layer of fat deposited under their skin. Or a thick fur coat or hair covering their bodies. These acts as an insulators that prevent losing the heat from their bodies. The fat not only insulates the body but helps in producing heat but also energy. Such adaptations can be seen in whales, seals, bears, etc. Adaptations as a response to adverse situations. Some adaptations to cope with adverse situations are quite peculiar and prominent and yet go unnoticed by us. Let's gather some information about hibernation and estivation. Observe these pictures. You may find many kinds of organisms living underground like this. Why did they choose such places? Many organisms that live in hot deserts or polar regions migrate to the deeper layers of the earth to protect themselves from the extreme conditions of heat and cold. For example, seasonal adaptations can be seen in amphibians like frogs. To protect themselves from the extremes of hot and cold conditions, they burrow deep in the ground and remain motionless until the conditions are favorable. During this period, the rate of metabolic activities slows down and the animal goes into a nearly unconscious sleepy condition called hibernation, winter sleep, and estivation, summer sleep. Lichens. You may have observed greenish areas on the bark turn into a greyish whitish mass and then to a peculiar flaky or greenish growth. The fungus colony attacks an algal colony where most of the algal colony that fails to compete dies out. The more adaptive forms live on to form symbiotic relationships with the fungi in colonies called lichens. The figure shows such a colony growing on a tree trunk. The fungus provides water and minerals to the alga, while the alga performs photosynthesis and supplies food in the form of sugars to the fungus. Due to such symbiotic adaptations, lichens are able to survive even in extreme conditions. It's very interesting. Adaptation to the environment is not a simple phenomenon. If we take a cow to a desert, will it be modified like a camel? If a giraffe is taken to a forest with short trees or plants, it would not turn into a goat. Adaptation takes place over a long period of duration. Let me tell you about Darwin's finches. Story of Darwin's finches. Charles Darwin, in the year 1885, landed from the famous ship HMS Beagle on one of the islands of the group of Galapagos Islands. He studied different organisms on the islands. His most remarkable observation had been about finches. Our state bird is also a finch. He was amazed to see that 13 types of finches that differed with respect to beaks and the color of feathers were present in the small region of the Galapagos Islands. He noted that some finches eat seeds, while some eat fruits and others eat insects. Is there any relation between the type of food taken and the structure of the beak? The seed eaters have thick and heavy beaks. The fruit eaters have stubby beaks. The insect eaters have sharp and long beaks. Darwin observed that these birds had adapted to their immediate surroundings for food and shelter and showed a lot of variation even within the same species, especially with respect to the form of beaks. He made a sketch of the same as shown in the above figure. Thus, he concluded that adaptation was something that an organism is undergoing continuously, even within very closely related forms in a particularly geographically separated area. Points to remember: some plants in temperate regions shed their leaves before the winter starts. In tropical regions, some plants shed their leaves before the start of summer. Heat changes occur due to an increase or decrease in atmospheric temperatures. These changes greatly affect the life of organisms in different ecosystems. Animals living in cold regions adapt themselves in different ways. They have a thick layer of fat deposited under their skin or a thick fur coat or hair covering their bodies. Some animals like frog and lizard undergo hibernation and aestivation. The relationship between algae and fungi is called as a symbiotic relationship. Darwin observed 13 types of finches that differed with respect to beaks and the color of feathers, were present in the small regions of the Galapagos Islands. Thank you for watching the video. For videos like this, stay tuned to this channel.